Monkey D. Luffy, king of the pirates.
Yo, what's up guys? It's me, VVVLuffyM2, for another one of my Cartoon Theories episodes. This is episode 3, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Before we get to the actual theory though, let me start off by saying I got my PS4 came in the mail today, or yesterday, and it's in my house somewhere. Can't wait to open it Christmas Day, and I just went to GameStop since I had early dismissal from school and picked up a copy of Battlefield 4 for the PS4. So, yeah. And second of all, I fucking called it. Brian Griffin is alive again. Fucking called it. And you can all suck it if you didn't believe it. So let's get to the theory. The magical land of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends is little more than a figment of Frankie's imagination. Frankie Foster had autism, she grew up completely alone, had no friends, and her parents barely paid her any mind. So out of loneliness, she created an imaginary friend to keep her company. His name was Mikey. He looked like a large teddy bear with soft, cuddly fur and big, adorable eyes. He was Frankie's only friend, while the other children played jump rope or played kickball at recess. Frankie and Mikey were in the back of the playground talking and playing. By 1937, Frankie was around 11 years old and still had Mikey at her side. But having an imaginary friend in junior high made her only laugh at more, though Frankie paid them no mind because she loved Mikey more than anything. However, her teacher began to notice Frankie's still childish ways and talked to her parents about seeing a therapist. So the next day, Frankie and her family go to see a therapist, and while they observe Frankie, Mikey tries to comfort her because she was scared of what they wanted to do with her. But in the real world, Mr. and Mrs. Foster were given a vial of pills by the therapist. He told them that once Frankie took these, her imaginary friend would be gone for good. Once the Foster family got home, Miss Foster crushed the dosage of pills into a fine powder and mixed them into Frankie's chocolate milk for dinner. And unknowingly, Frankie had consumed the dosage each and every night. As the poor girl was given the pills, Frankie began to see less and less of Mikey. He didn't go to school with her as much, he wasn't there on the blacktop at school to giggle at her jokes every day, and he wasn't there to cuddle and hug each and every night until one day Mikey was gone forever. Distraught at losing her only friend, Frankie began to go into a shell. She would not speak to anyone, she would spend hours after school standing on the blacktop to see if her friend would come back, and she would get up in the middle of the night to sneak out and look for him. One day, Frankie had seen her mother crushing the pills and putting them in her chocolate milk. Curious, when Miss Foster left the room, Frankie walked into the kitchen and pulled the vial of pills from the counter and very slowly read the label, "Pills for Foster Frankie. Give 2 pills daily. Will stop visions within 2 weeks." Then, after hearing a shout, Frankie turned to see her mother standing in the door of the kitchen, her face red with rage, shouting words that Frankie could not understand by hearing the hostile and scary tone in her mother's voice. Frankie's eyes began to water up in tear as her mother shouted more and more until she snatched the vial of pills from Frankie's hands before smacking her small child across the face. And then her yelling had finally stopped. A great red welt covered the side of Frankie's face as her mother tried to soothe her, but Frankie screamed like a banshee and ran out the door. As she ran down the road in the dimming sky, Frankie made her way to the rundown section of her town, where all these buildings had been abandoned and no one lived in them, and there were some good ones, some bad. She turned around, and there was a gigantic house, looking almost like a great castle. So many colored, but slightly shabby multicolored paint that decorated the walls and made it look absolutely beautiful. Smiling with a large, stupid-looking grin, Frankie ran up the front steps into the great house and opened up the broken front doors. Inside were many kinds of old furniture, covered in layers of dust, holes for moths, and rats from an odor of mildew. It looked like a haunted mansion to the normal person, but to Frankie, this was Wonderland. About 2 weeks later, the effect of the pills eventually wore off, but despite this, Mikey never returned to Frankie. Rather than be sad that her old friend was gone for good, Frankie decided to make new friends to keep her company in her mansion. Soon the friends we know and love began to spring out. Blue, Wilt, Coco, Eduardo, Mr. Herman, and many, many more. But what about Mac and Foster? Mac was a description of Frankie's possible younger brother. Around 1933, when Frankie was 5, Miss Foster was expecting her second child. Frankie's parents wanted to have another child in hopes they would have a normal child, but the entire Foster family was thrilled to have another child, including Frankie. By the time the baby was due, something went horribly wrong. During childbirth, the umbilical cord had gotten wrapped around the baby's neck like a noose and it was suffocated to death. Despite the baby dying, the family gave him a name, Mac, and because of this incident, Mac was an image of what Frankie's younger brother would have been if he had lived. Madame Foster was based off Frankie's actual grandmother. She acted almost exactly like Madame Foster, sweet, funny, and a bit odd. Frankie's grandmother loved Frankie dearly, even if she was mentally handicapped. She often made cookies and sweets for Frankie, or little toys, but in 1936, when Frankie was 9, her grandmother was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and she died 6 months later. Many years passed, and Frankie still lived in the great mansion, making many more imaginary friends to fill her home. Many crazy antics filled her days in the home, and she was happier than she could have been in her life, but she was truly happy. But all that was about to change. In the early 1950s, the town had ordered the mansion to be demolished so a playground can be built over the large amount of real estate that covered the property. Many people objected to the demolition of the house, as it had existed for almost 200 years, but little could be done and the house was to be torn down. One day in 1952, while Frankie was trying to stop Blue during one of his goofball antics, a large wrecking ball and construction crew were coming down the road. Driving up onto the large lawn, the large iron ball was swung back and forth, back and forth. Frankie was chasing Blue until she stopped in front of a large window. She saw the wrecking ball hurtle towards her, and that was the last thing she ever saw. So that's it, guys. That's the cartoon theory for Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. If you want to read the theory yourself, the link to the actual theory will be in the description. And if you're new to my channel, like the 4 people who just subbed to me from the Sub Sunday video on Slash's channel, if you want to see the other 2, which were Ed and Eddie and Adventure Time with Finn and Jake, a link to the playlist will be down below. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. My name is VVVLufium2. And before I go, one more thing. I did tell you about the PS4, but I will not be able to record it for a while because, one, I don't have a Facebook, so so I can't actually record and stream to Facebook. Even if I send it to a Twitch, I'd have to do another screen cap to record a thing because Twitch does not save the actual PS4 live streams directly from the PS4. And because when I tried to the preview screen from Aroxia, it was all blurry and stuff, but when you actually put it in your video thing, it looks great, but when it's actually recording, it looks fuzzy. So even if I try to enlarge that video and screen cap that, it would still look bad. So anyway, guys, so PS4 will not show up until they make the HDCP patch. So that's it. Thank you for watching, guys. My name is VVVLufium2 once again, and peace out, bitches.
Ares wins.
Only a fool would challenge me.